My second date was a man that I met, and I was more careful. I decided we're going to meet really anonymously, so we met in Stamford, Connecticut at a teeny little restaurant where I knew nobody would go. And I get there, and there before me is the single ugliest man I have ever seen in my life. And I'm really not that bad a person, so I thought I should try to get to know him from the inside, and let me just say, they matched.
And Avery's there with her mother, Catherine, waiting to attend nursery school, and she notices that I'm without Duncan, so Avery turns to Catherine and says, "Where's Duncan?" And Catherine says to Avery, "Duncan went to heaven." And unprompted, out of nowhere, Avery says, "Good, that means Callie has someone to play with." And you know, it's probably childish, unsophisticated theology, but I don't know. In my mind, it was sort of a word from God through the mouth of a 3-year-old.
The Prince and Princess of Wales have announced they're about to separate. I'm the first guy through the door the next day. He said, "Shortly, the Prince of Wales will come through those double doors. They'll be preceded by some dogs, Jack Russells." And sure enough, at 11 o'clock, the door opened, and through came the dogs, speaking dog. And he came in, shorter than I thought he'd be, funny little hands, you know, funny little hands. I said to him, "You've had a tricky week, haven't you, sir?" And to bring the story to a close, I'll tell you what he said. He said, no, we've always paid our taxes through the medium of the Duchy of Cornwall.
One of these planes, you know, at the time, you know, they're cutting edge, but nowadays we're a 2-seater plane front to back, probably a bi-wing plane. And he takes her up, and he's flying all over the place, and just unbelievable, crazy stuff, and she just can't take it anymore. Finally, she thumps him on the shoulder, and she goes like this, she goes like that. And I guess she told me she kind of made this twirling. So he immediately cuts the engine, and the plane plummets 1,500 feet to the ground, and about 100 feet above the ground, he restarts the engine, and it zooms back up again. And afterwards, they land, and he gets out, and he slaps her in the back, and he goes, "I can't believe you wanted to do the maple leaf." No passenger has ever asked to do the maple leaf before.
I'd sneak out the window and walk out on the dock at night and smoke cigarettes and slap mosquitoes and think about John Henry. You know, when you're 14, nothing beats sitting on a dock in the moonlight, smoking cigarettes and feeling mournful. It's a grown-up feeling, isn't it? Kind of actressy like Betty Davis or Lauren Bacall. Mournful and glamorous. Thank you.
There's a wonderful love of a beautiful maid, and the love of a staunch, true man, and the love of a baby that's unafraid. All have existed since time began. But the most wonderful love, the love of all loves, greater than the love for mother, is the infinite, tenderest, passionate love of one dead drunk for another.
Windows are steamy, I've got the seats back. It is the tiniest car ever made. There's a stick shift here, which is not being good. And we're having the greatest time, and it's really just unbelievable. And oh my God, this is the best. And Laura says, "It's getting light out." That's literally her words. I remember them exactly. "It's getting light out." And I thought, no, it can't be but 1 or 2 in the morning. And I realized it's a flashlight coming up to the car. And fortunately, the man has the discretion to avert his gaze slightly, but rap with the flashlight on the window, and those words, which are the single most frightening words that any child can hear, license and registration. It's a cop. Somebody saw us driving. And, you know, so I said, "Oh, okay, but the problem is I can't find my license because I can't find my pants." And he says, "Terry Betteridge?" I said, "Yeah." He knows me. I'm good. He says, "You're Bert Betteridge's son." And I said, yeah, I know my dad, everything's just gonna get bad. And he says, chip off the old block.
I was so mortified by what I had done, and I'm crying and I'm sobbing, and mother's like trying to just make me feel so much better about it. I quickly realized I could never be a hunter, I could never harm an animal, and that I would, forever have a love of animals. And he goes, what are you doing? And I said, and I'm really proud of the fact that I have, caught this groundhog, that I haven't killed it, that I am releasing it back into its wild. And he says, you did what? And I'm sitting there and I'm telling the story, and he goes, you're transporting a wild animal across state lines. You're in New York State. I'm writing you a ticket.
Being the weird kid that I was, I decided, well, I need to investigate this. So over the next 30 years, which brings us up to about a few years ago, I decided I needed to sort of figure out what Belhaven looked like and how do I recreate what it was at its peak. And at the end of the day, we put together this huge portfolio of pictures and a poster that sort of recreates what Belhaven looked like in 1900 and gives you a sense of what the summer community really looked like as opposed to what it is as a urban community today. And if anybody's ever interested in it, we've donated one to the archives of the Stroke.
And there was this big group of people dancing, like people who were probably 18 years old. And there was Michael Jackson type music playing because Michael Jackson had just died. And in Paris, people get very passionate about everything. And they were all dancing like Michael Jackson. And suddenly I realized, I don't know, I didn't realize this, but my body was starting to move. And suddenly there were like hundreds of people in this circle watching these professional 18-year-old guys dancing. The guys stopped dancing and they all look at me and they put their hand out and they grabbed me. And I got into the middle of this circle and I started dancing with them and everybody's watching. A young guy came up to me and went, wow. And I said, oh, you're just making fun of me, right? Everybody is. And he went, no, you're amazing. So I just felt very excited and honored.
I was wondering if you were willing to do her a favor. I said, well, what is that? He said, you are the only person in this world whom she loves. And would you be willing to live with her? Oh my God. And I said, whoa, this has come fast. I said, no, Dr. Chase. I said, I am unemployed right now and I'm looking for a job and I expect to get a job. But I do love her very much, and I will, stay in touch with her after I get my job. And she sat there in the hospital and made this painting for me. And tragically, she died far too young, around the age of 59, of the drug and alcoholism that was part of her life. But I did visit her in the hospital, and I've kept this ever since. So that's my love story.
Nice job, everybody.